I will concede that. I wouldn't even say concede. I will commend J5 for his performance.
Oh, thank you.
I do think that his defense is still a little bit suspect. I think that he played in a role that is more comfortable for him. However, the fact that he was playing in a what we would essentially call a different role, and he wasn't performing to the same level that he was before in that same role and position, it's not a like, screaming from the rooftop like tight game. Like, I thought he had a much better game than what we've seen out of him, but at the same time, that role that he was in under Tuchel also got him, number 3 in FIFA Player of the Year voting. So I'm more or less happy that he's finally playing to the level that we expect him to play at.
Siemi bakayoko, oh yo, Samina mina, Edward Mende, Samina mina, Sam Sadate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. First of all, big thank you to those of you watching on Twitch. If you're not there right now, catching us later, you can join us Sundays, even though tonight we're here on a Saturday. Sundays, 8:30 Central Time. Pour yourself a drink, give us a follow, join in the chat, all that good stuff. But we are also a podcast, so make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. You've got myself, Andy. You can follow me at Comiskey North. We've got our calming force in the midfield, our Jorginho, Parker at DJ Parkour. And we've got the spark plug off the bench, Armando Broya, Matt Maciejewski at Matus Lee. Boys, how's it going today?
I'm trying to think on the fly of who you are in that equation, Collins. I'm going to go with sturdy Kepa. Your boy was playing goalie today, so I'll go with the person who's calling all the shots and taking command of the team, from the back. So you can rock that today.
I'll take Mr. Manager. That works for me.
Manager. Yeah, so no, I'm good. Life's good. Thanks for being able to pivot to a Saturday, boys. Work schedule's getting a little crazy these days, so be traveling tomorrow on another plane, third one in 7 days. So it seems to not be stopping, but we still were able to watch the game and pour a bourbon and drink with you boys tonight. So life's good. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. The missus is up in Appleton tonight. She was doing a craft fair, trying to sell some of her macrame pieces and just a lot of the stuff that she does kind of on the side. So yeah, my main goal today was not burning the house down. So far I've succeeded. There's still time, but I've succeeded. Collins, I got very hesitant during the intros when you were going to throw out when as soon as you said Jorginho, I was like, if you compare that to me, if you put that on me, oh, we're throwing hands. But I do appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, everything is going well. Can't argue. Collins, how are things going tonight?
Well, I missed Chelsea, as we all did, but got to watch my 8-year-old go play for his school team this morning. That's always good. Kepa Aiden Balaga making all the saves. So Parker, I like the comparison there. Then spent a lot of my day at Central Standard Distillery. Love them. So I bought myself a couple bottles of Fly the L. We're set up for success in October, boys.
When you guys come visit in November, I need like a full shipment of Fly VL and other Central Standard staples. I will pay you handsomely for that, for the transportation fee. I just need some of that in my cabinet for a while. So appreciate it. Thanks in advance.
Central Standard, I know you listen. So DJ Parkour's in need. help brother out.
Is there?
But we haven't done this in a while. I'm real curious. What are you boys drinking tonight?
I have, well, right now, I have Hatch 19 from Door County, Wisconsin. Very good, very smooth. Big fan of it, obviously, with Collins kind of throwing out the Central Standard. We definitely support local and very Wisconsin things. So that's kind of where I'm at tonight. So yeah, very good. Highly recommend. Parks, what do you got?
Matt, it's funny because I try to stay local, but my heart is in Wisconsin while I'm physically in Minnesota. So it is kind of harder too. I do support Minnesota breweries and everything like that as well. But I'm drinking scotch. I'm drinking the same stuff that was purchased with the tears of Thomas Tuchel. My Bowmore 15-year-old scotch. That was a hard day, as you boys know, as we recorded, and I was like, Bowmore 12 is a staple of mine. It's a pretty smoky, peaty scotch, and they were out of the 12, and I was like, well, I'll get the 15. I've never had the 15, and spend a couple extra bucks and get the 15. So definitely not my daily drinker. It's much too expensive to be my daily drinker, but got about a quarter of the bottle left. So that's what I'm having tonight. And then Miller Lite on the side because I'm classy.
Atta boy.
Nice little chaser there. All right. Well,
Collins, what about you? What are you rocking?
I'm supporting Parker's local here. I got Indeed Brewing, Key Lime Pie Sour. Oh, I'm on a key lime kick because I've also got Distill Brewery Key Lime Sour. So I'm living the dream. It's my favorite kind of beer.
How are you liking that Indeed? Because that is literally, it's probably my favorite sour key lime drink I've had.
I know it's cliche to say something is like your crack. This is my crack, 100%. I could drink this all day, every day.
It's really good.
So, side note for local, I also have an OG from MKE Brewing, and because I had to get it because it came out with new cans of Busch Light. So, Parks, don't worry about a chaser. I got you.
If those listening to the podcast just want to fast forward to the last like 20 minutes of this podcast, it should be a good one based on the amount of alcohol we all just presented.
We should timestamp our episodes, Collins.
Yeah, right. I don't know what that means. I'm too old. All right. Well, we are on episode number 6 of the season. This is, the debate this year has been between current players and legends, and I feel like we have one that fits both of those, but I'm going to throw a couple names out to you guys. So episode 6 can be the Thiago Silva Memorial episode.
And we're done.
There are 2 other really good names at 6. Ricardo Carvalho,
No,
legend. Marcel Desailly,
no.
legend.
I like our trend of going club legend first, and then in future seasons. And I know Thiago Silva's on that kind of cusp of, is he a club legend or not? Looking past this, recency bias, like in 20 years, will they consider him one? And how I look at Carvalho is he's already passed that time test. He is a club legend, and so I give the nod to the guy who we recognize today as a club legend. As much as I love Thiago Silva, he is in that like just slightly lower category in my mind today still. Very slightly, very, 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 very slightly lower.
Matt, I feel like we have your opinion already.
Yep.
All right. Well, as the tiebreaker here, Parker, I completely agree with all of your points, but at the same time, we're not going to be able to come back next year and give Thiago Silva episode 6 because this is his last year with Chelsea. We can next year we can give it to Ricky. How about that?
All right, I'm cool with that. It's a democracy.
Right. I'm an honest podcaster. All right. Well, on tonight's episode, basically we're going to break down Potter ball. Changes we're seeing from the Tuchel era to now Graham Potter. We'll talk about his lineup, specifically Azpilicueta in a back 4 with Thiago Silva. Talk about our big name striker signing, Aubameyang, and finally we'll tackle. Matt seems to remember a different conversation than what Parker and I do. We'll tackle Kai Havertz. So let's real first, right off the bat, get into Potter, because it was kind of it wasn't a long awaited, debut, but the match was suspended last weekend, so we had to wait an extra couple days to get Potter's debut. What did we make of how the team looked? What do we make of his tactics? His coaching styles. Just kind of first impressions of the new manager.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'll just give a quick sort of my quick thoughts on what I saw and what I think he's going to be bringing to the team. He seems pretty positive. He seems relatively upbeat. He came out and kind of greeted the fans with a clap and he sort of acknowledged his presence at Stamford Bridge. It's always cool when you can walk out to your home fans, right, on your debut and get to clap the fans and be welcomed into this new situation. So he's a far more positive than Tuchel has been, which I think is easy to do because Tuchel in this year has been much more negative. I think he's been much more frustrated with the squad because I think he knows what he expects out of them and what he was getting wasn't that. So Potter is much more appreciative of the people kind of doing what he think they talked about and had a couple extra days to figure out where people should be. From a lineup perspective, I thought there wasn't too many shocks. There wasn't too many surprises. I don't think he tried to reinvent the wheel. I think it's going to be a work in progress. And, we talked a little bit before the pod, Collins, about how he might look to switch the lineup a few times and kind of be a little bit more fluid and in-game switches and things like that. So lineup perspective, I think, the biggest question mark for me is that back 4. And are we going to be seeing a consistent back 4 and how is that going to look? How are we going to play? And, my fear is if we have a back 4 that has our left and right kind of bombing up and down as we had in like that back 5 or with the the wing back situation, I think we're just going to give up more goals. I think that's kind of a natural evolution of if you have one more striker and those guys, Reece getting into attacking positions, Kukurea getting into attacking positions, Ben Chills, same thing. And then you have 2 center backs kind of left to deal with the counterattack. It's going to be a struggle for us. And I think counterattacking goals are going to come against us. And we saw it against not the best teams in the world. And so if we're getting countered by a Man City or a Liverpool or a Leeds or a Fulham or an Arsenal or Tottenham, like those teams will be able to break that down, with some relative ease, I think. Granted, we should be scoring more goals if we have more in attacking positions. So I think that's just going to be a little bit of a diversion from what we're used to, is more goals scored for us and more goals given up against us as well. So, but I could see us going back to that back five. I think that suits us as well. So I think it's going to depend on the match, and Potter's going to have, a few weeks to kind of figure out what that proper lineup should be and how it goes from there.
Yeah, I didn't mind the lineup at all. I feel like, and Collins, I'm sorry for kind of stealing your thunder on this one, but it seemed like more people were in their correct positions than we've seen under Tuchel. Dave being that center back, questionable. I think that would be probably the only thing that we would kind of all collectively agree would be something of like, is that the right decision when you have Koulibaly and you have Fofana on the bench? Is that the right play? I personally didn't think that it was, but again, you've got a new manager. You got to give credit to some of the people that have been there a lot longer and gone through a lot more shit. So I get that. I as much as I love Kova, him as more of an attacking mid, like we saw him up the pitch a lot higher than I think we've ever seen him before. I'm not sure if I like that. I don't know if that necessarily fits like what he's built to do. Like I saw a lot of times where he was, trying to get into the box, and like he was one of our target people. And that's something that we really didn't see out of him beforehand. I don't know if that fits him well. I do think that Jorginho in that position does work well. I think that it is a position that is natural to him, maybe not under Tuchel, but he definitely was able to adjust. And I think this is a little bit more comfortable for him. But overall, I saw a lot more attacking. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway, right? We've talked about attacking and the lack of it. And I think we saw a lot of that even in the first game. So I'm very optimistic in terms of what we can do as we go forward.
And Matt, you did steal my thunder on that. But to piggyback off your last point there, but I agree. I think the major change that I saw was the attack. And it's not so much the volume of attack, because I don't believe that we weren't trying to attack under Tuchel. It's just there was no rhyme or reason to the way we were doing it. And we've talked about, or Matt and I, you and I talked about last night, that it just seemed to be send it out to the right wing. Reece James will be there. Hope he does something magical, and then that's our offense.
Yep.
It wasn't that. It really wasn't that this weekend. And granted, we still did not have that many shots on goal. I think we had 5 in the match, 1 in the first half, and then I think there were another 4 in the second. But the buildup that getting to the final third looked a lot more capable. It looked like there was a plan. There was interchange on both wings. There was interchange in the middle of the pitch. You saw guys like Mason Mount, who were playing a little bit more central, have good link up with the Raheem Sterlings and Aubameyang, and even Reece James then out on the right. Cucurella had great interchange with Raheem Sterling. Kai Havertz had a bit of interchange, even though he was kind of a ghost the rest of the match. it looked like there was a plan. Now it's just a matter of, for lack of a better term, de-brainwashing this group. Yeah, Parker with the wow on that one. Because they've been trained, it looks like, to always go for the cutback and then shoot. We saw Aubameyang do it a couple times. We saw Sterling do it probably 4 times on one single play. This team just needs to fire first time, and then use the cutback as an alternative. But right now it's all cutback all the time. So as soon as we can get the drilled out of their heads, hey, like, stop doing that, I think you're going to see a lot more shots on goal, a higher XG, and hopefully more goals. But the reason I think that we can do that, and this piggybacks off what Parker said, is I think we saw a lot of positivity out of Potter. Every single time we had an attack, he was up cheering the guys on. He was being supportive, which we did not see out of Tuchel. Tuchel, the last, I don't know, maybe 20 matches he was in charge, guy misses a shot or, poor attack, anything like that, you saw him yelling and directing from the sidelines. Man, I hate to say this, makes me sound real old man, but we got a bunch of, what generation is that? Gen Y, Gen A, whatever, Gen Z, something.
Who are you referring to?
The players.
Yeah, they're Gen Z.
Yeah, I got a bunch of Gen Z little crybabies out there. So you gotta pump them up, not tear them down.
It's fair, Collins, but if you go on stretches that where you're underperforming and guys aren't doing what they're supposed to, clapping them around is going to be hard to do as well, right?
Yeah.
At some point, it might have to change, right? So I'm curious to see. I mean, Tuchel, you go back and watch early games of Tuchel in charge, and he was much more positive as well. I think some of the pressures of Chelsea can get to you as a manager. Of expectations are sky high, and even when you do decently well, it's like, what have you done for me lately? And oh, but you didn't win the league, and oh, you didn't win the Champions League. Things like that, and getting to finals isn't good enough. Winning finals is all that counts, kind of a thing. So it'll be interesting to see the evolution of a manager who has almost unfathomably high expectations.
I think what's going, what's trending well for him in that, because you can't just be 100% positive all the time. You can't be 100% negative all the time either. But he's got that higher education, that master's degree equivalent in psychology, in man management. So I hate when I go to work and they give me those personality tests to try to figure out how to accurately, motivate me and all that, because I feel like they don't know what they're doing with that. And a lot, it's just kind of mumbo jumbo. But from everything I read about Potter and everything I've seen from Potter, he seems like the kind of guy who would give that assessment and then be able to go in and accurately use that to his advantage. So I trust that he's going to be able to manage this group into not getting him sacked.
Hope so.
But Matt, you touched on, I think it was you. Yeah, touching on that back four, Azpilicueta. That was, for me, that was the only thing I worried about going into the match. When you looked at that lineup, you could tell it was going to be a back four from the get-go. And having Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta in that back four, had it been a manager who's been around for a while and all that, like, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? That's not a lot of pace. Azpi's been a liability. But again, it's Potter's first match. It's the club captain. It's the guy who's played the most matches for the club out of anybody who's there at Cobham. That might have just been me nitpicking, but was it smart to play Azpilicueta to start him alongside Thiago Silva in a back four?
I don't think it was. I understand the rationale behind wanting to play him for the points that you had mentioned, but when you have somebody like Koulibaly or even Fofana, and yes, I've been somewhat critical of Fofana over 2 games. And I get it. It's an overreaction. But you need somebody to counter what Thiago Silva brings to the pitch. Like, yeah, he's going to be the person that's probably going to be in the best position out of anybody. But as we saw, if he doesn't get it right, you need somebody else that can be back there and, track back and do kind of all those other things. Dave doesn't have that pace anymore. Like, as much as we hate to say it, because we love Dave. He just doesn't have his legs anymore, right? He's getting up there in age and it just doesn't fit well. So when you put 2 guys that are aging that don't have the legs to keep up with a young crop of attackers, you kind of set yourself up for failure in that regard. Do I think that's what led to the goal? No. But at the same time, you have to think about it in the sense that you have Fofana, who is 22-ish, something like that. Yeah, he can run. Like, throw him out there. Granted, in my opinion, he didn't have the best Champions League performance for his debut. In my opinion, Colin, stop shaking your head. In my opinion, I don't think he had the best debut. I thought he had a great match in the Premier League. But I don't know. It seems like when you throw 2 defenders out there, 2 center backs that you're expecting to hold the line while you have 2 bombing, right back and left back, it's a very tough ask. And I don't think that it was, I don't think it was the right move.
I didn't mind it at all. I actually thought our defense played pretty well, and I get all the points, and I just think in a central defensive role, speed's less critical. You have speed around you, and the Reece Jameses and the Cucureas and people that can handle some of the speed. If we got beat by people bombing down, because we've had those matches before where it's just a liability and they can play people into space, and our guys just aren't, they're not quick enough to take a direct line. They've got to take a track back line and pray that they don't get schooled on a step over move or something. We weren't at those odds in that match. So I feel like if we don't give up that goal, if Thiago Silva does Thiago Silva things, which is not give up the goal there, we're not having this conversation. And so to me, that's not fair to Dave, because I think Dave played a fairly solid match. All in all, it not his best performance of his career, sure, but I don't think he was a liability out there. I think he was fine, and Silva was great, except for a slight slip and a bit of an error. And I just don't think we're having that conversation if it doesn't happen.
So Colin, sorry, before you go. So the one thing that I will say is, I don't know, I would say the last 15 matches, Dave has not looked himself. So, and granted, you're a new manager, and let's not forget this. This is Graham Potter's first time in the Champions League. Like, anybody can say, oh, it's just another game. This is not another game. Like, it is a big deal. And for that to be his first match with the, unfortunate death of the Queen, like, that's a tough situation to come into. And so he's relying on, veteran leadership and everything like that. I get that. But I don't think it was the right choice. We know that Dave is a right back by trade. he's kind of been playing that right wing back / right center back ish role. But Collins, that feeds to your point of somebody who is somewhat out of position. And why are we still following, kind of those same tactics?
Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree on Dave being played out of position. I think it's been a transition probably 3-4 years in the making now. And I think honestly, had Reece James not been injured last year, you would have seen Dave 90% of his matches at center back. I think that's just with his age, that's been the transition, and that's now his position. You're going to see him as an emergency right back. But my concern going into the match was exactly what you said, Matt. It's been a poor last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months for Dave. And at that age and all that, and the transfer speculation, you got to be concerned about where he's at. And so again, I understand. I think Potter's justified in picking him in his first lineup. You want to have that experience alongside Thiago Silva. But if we're looking, taking the manager out of the scenario there, we're looking at the season as a whole, looking bigger picture at all that. It's a wasted opportunity back there. And Parker, I completely agree with you. Dave didn't necessarily affect the game from a score standpoint. But Red Bull certainly seemed to like going down that flank, especially when Reece James was up, because Dave couldn't handle Sesko down that side. So, man, I don't know, Matt, I agree with you. I would have liked to see Fofana back there, just because you got somebody who can handle the ball. You got somebody with a little bit of speed. I wouldn't mind Koulibaly. He probably would have been red carded. I don't know, maybe Trev would have been an interesting one, but had Trev screwed up, Potter would have been crucified for that. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me, but I understand it.
And to be fair, if I was creating my team list, it would have had Fofana on it. Like, I'm not arguing that Dave should have started over him. That's not my position on this.
Yeah, I think had this been his third game in charge, then yeah, I think we'd have harsher criticism over Dave being out there. But in his first match, and again, trial by fire, right? Like, his first match in charge is a Champions League match, something that he's never been a part of. And when we've already kind of shit the bed in the first match, it's tough, right? He's kind of between a rock and a hard place. So I understand the decision. I don't agree with it.
I real quick, I know this wasn't on the agenda, but I real quick want to get your guys' feel. Matt, you and I kind of discussed this last night when we were rewatching the game. And Parker, you and I discussed it a little bit before on the pod. The goal that we conceded, we're all putting the primary blame on Thiago Silva for that, right? Oh, come on. Make this easy for me, Matt.
No, I'm just giving a caveat. I do think that it is on Thiago Silva. Whatever he was trying to do, and Collins, we talked about this, is he trying to corral it? Is he trying to get it out of play and then just came off the guy's foot and it's just, a spin of bad luck? I don't know, but the Thiago Silva that I know would not have tried to corral it. He would have just kicked it out and just been like, no, we'll just reset, give him a throw in and go from there. That is the only caveat that I will throw to that. But to answer your question, yes, I do think that is on Thiago Silva.
I should have said gun to your head. No, those are all great points. And again, you stole my thunder here. But I just wanted to go, yeah, I wanted to go on record here because I think I speak for all of us when I say this isn't something that, you know, we're all now calling for Thiago Silva to be benched. Like, Thiago Silva's got the track record to back up that this was a one-off weird mistake. And just as kind of a joke here, you know, he was in the man of the match running and then conceded the goal. So there was no way in hell I was going to put him in the man of the get the fuck out of here. But I think just not having him in the man of the match poll is probably punishment enough for a guy who I'm pretty sure listens to our pod pretty consistently.
Yeah, and I mean, Parks, you're kind of like our numbers guy. He was kind of due, right? He's been so good for so long. Like, at some point you're kind of due for a little bit of a fuck up. And I think that's unfortunately what happened, regardless of what he was trying to do. I think that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, in the business, we call that the law of large numbers. Over a large enough sample size, you will get the true distribution, and even the rare occurrences come, you know, when you stretch it out far enough. So the one thing I'll say is the people who are saying that Kepa should have done better off a deflected shot that came from pretty close range. I know it technically sort of went under his arm, but man, and you know, people who can Monday morning quarterback that shot and be like, oh, you should have reacted quicker to that. You've never been in a situation when you're ready for something and it takes a turn. And we've all played volleyball and you're sitting there on the line and something takes a turn. It's hard to react to things like that. I thought Kepa did valiant to get to where he was in that position, and it snuck under his arm, sure, but that's not his fault. That's I don't like when people can look at that and say that, because you're not understanding the what happened in that situation. Close range shot, deflection, goalies can be frozen pretty quickly, and he still made a move. He wasn't totally frozen. He still had a reaction to it, just wasn't there in time, and that's not his fault.
And not to derail our script any further here, but Kepa had a sneaky good game. He had some great distribution, had some good saves. Sesko almost curled one in near at the far post on the ground there that he touched around to the other side. Kepa impressed me, and I agree. I don't think you can blame Kepa for not stopping a deflected shot from close range.
How about that ball he came, 35 yards out and punched and took care of, with his head. Do you ever see Mendy do stuff like that? Like, absolutely owns his space, knows his space, and takes care of stuff before it becomes something, because that was a dangerous ball. I mean, if that ball falls, anyone's best guess where it goes. That was like, yep, sweet. I like that. I like that so much more, that commanding presence versus what we were dealing with Mendy.
And that's the biggest thing that I've on his, like, he doesn't own his own box. He's always looking for somebody else to like take care of stuff. Kepa knows what's going on. Like, you have to think about this. We're not talking about Bettinelli, right? Like, we're talking about Kepa, one of the better keepers in the world. He knows how to control his box. Mendy does not. And I think that's been the biggest issue. Yeah, his distribution. I mean, at this point, anybody's distribution is better than Mendy's. It's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, like, Kepa is more than competent. He knows what he's doing, and he owns that entire space. I'm all for Kepa.
Like I said earlier in the season, I think it's going to be play the hot hand this year. And right now, I think Kepa's got that hot hand. So let it ride. All right, back on track here. Next up, we got a man who doesn't necessarily have a hot hand, although he's only played 2 matches for us, and that's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The fan base seems to be a little torn on the ex-Arsenal man. He's yet to score for Chelsea, and that first match he played against Zagreb was not a great attacking match for us in general. He had some chances here against Red Bull, but again, failed to get on the score sheet. What do you guys make of Aubameyang?
What do I make of him? I'm relatively low on it, but I think the expectations on him were higher than what they should be. He's not Erling Haaland. Like, we're not, I think sometimes people in general just kind of expect great things to happen early with signings. And I think even like the Olivier Giroud, a guy that we, praise and tout on this podcast often, especially myself, he didn't go out there and play every 90 and score, a goal and assist every game. He wasn't that guy. And Aubameyang won't be that either. I think some of his play was a little concerning for me. Just his movement and where he was kind of popping up, and it just he got lost a little bit in a period of the game. So I hope it kind of gets worked out, but I have low expectations. He was a low dollar signing, and I know it's an area of need for us, so we're going to put kind of emphasized pressure on it. But he's a 6 to 8 goal kind of guy in a season, and I don't think we should expect much more than that.
So I think that his first match against Zagreb was probably his better of the performances. I thought that he was more lively. He was, able to track back. He was making himself available. Did he shoot when we all wanted him to? Absolutely not. Like, those are strikers' chances, whereas a pure striker, like, yeah, shoot. I think he's trying to be a little bit too cute, at least in that regard. Like, take your chances. I mean, we all saw what he did with Arsenal. He was a very productive individual on a suspect team at that time. And I think, it was him and Lacazette. But if you have him and Raz, I think that's enough of a tandem where he can be available. And I think 15 goals is not out of the realm of possibility for him. I think that would be a relatively fair benchmark for what Chelsea fans expect and what he expects out of himself.
Yeah, man, I'm more with you on that, where I think it's, probably 15 to 18 goals. I think, Parker, your evaluation is a little harsh on the guy. And this is why. And he's coming off of a broken jaw, and I know you don't play with your jaw, but he's still running out there with a mask that he has never worn in his career outside of goal celebrations. He's dealing with the pain of that, and if he's not dealing with the pain, he's dealing with some kind of morphine, steroids, something to deal with the pain. So the man's not going to be himself for a couple weeks now. I really wouldn't mind seeing Armando Broja come in and let him start for a couple weeks, let him kind of be the spark in the attack, and then once Aubameyang is at 100%, let it rip. Because I think once you see that, and once he's been in the team and is up to par with everybody and all that, like, you're gonna see a once again lethal striker. I was more encouraged in this match than I was in the Zagreb match. I thought he was taking more balls first time even if they weren't really opportunities that, yeah, they're ones that he had maybe a 1% chance to score on. I'm thinking the volley above his head and, some of those, but he wasn't doing the cutback as much as he was against Zagreb, which is now my biggest pet peeve. No, I liked what I've seen out of Aubameyang, and I think again it's only going to go up from here. It's just a matter of getting him back to being healthy.
Fair point on the injury. Kind of forgot about that. So fair point that he is playing with a broken jaw, and talk about physical pain, and also, I mean, the man's house was broken into, and he got attacked in his own house where his family lives and stuff. I mean, that's enough to weigh on anybody, right? I mean, we're all humans at the end of the day, and that not feel safe in your own house has to be pretty shitty. So I don't envy that feeling also. I guess my negative criticism is partly to him and also partly due to Chelsea's attack in general. Because I believe you could recall Rom, and if we're firing on all cylinders as a team, if we're playing our best football as a team, Rom could score 35 goals for us, easily, because he would be put into situations where he could have 20 tap-ins. I mean, I think our team is skilled enough and good enough to be able to put a true number 9 and have anyone score goals, right? My negative outlook is because our attack has been so poor that it's going to be hard for a guy who's older and less prolific, I guess, to kind of carry the load on his own, and he'll have to create more chances if those chances aren't being created for him. So that's a little bit, it's a little bit unfair to him, but that's just how I see the state of our team today.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so it's the question that I've kind of been thinking of. If Erling Haaland came to Chelsea, would he have 11 goals? Not a shot in hell, right? Pep is just playing a better system and just getting his message across a little bit better than everybody else. And I mean, granted, yes, Haaland's goal was absolutely stupid, Zlatan-esque. And for the record, we are all big fans of Zlatan. But it was something like that. And you can't teach that, you can't train that, but he just has that. But at the same time, looking at City's system and how they move, it wouldn't be the same scenario with Chelsea. And I think Aubameyang will find the right system. I think that we'll be able to get him in positions to score. We've seen in different leagues that he's able to score, right? We know this. I think it's just a little bit of time. Parker, you talk about it, trust the process. I think right now for Aubameyang, for the team, it's a little bit of process.
Transition, yeah.
I want to touch on that real quick, because Parker's not going to be on Pod After Dark. Let's close out with this topic here instead of Kai Havertz. We're one match in to the Potter era. Got 1 point out of a possible 3. Is Potter going to make it? How confident are you that everything we went through in the last week and a half is going to end up being worth it? Parker, we'll start with you. Trust the process.
Define worth it.
Is this going to be a profitable partnership
this year?
In general, for the length of the time that Potter is here?
Well, that's also very subjective, because he could be fired next week for all we know.
Yeah, no, again, this is a podcast about our opinions. So,
of course.
and
Uh,
Parker, you were very, very vocal on the emergency pod about Tuchel wasn't given enough time. You want somebody given a kind of a runway.
Yeah.
But
It
how do you
and
think this
so
is going to turn out?
I think it'll be similar to some of the history that we've had where we're gonna have some good times and some bad times. I think he'll win the league? I'm probably gonna say no. Just because it's hard for me to envision winning the league in the next 3 seasons. I know it looks way far out, but I'll just ballpark and say no. I think he'll have some success. Will he have as much success as Tuchel, which isn't the direct question you're asking, but I think he'll have about the same amount of success as Tuchel, maybe slightly less. I think it'll be a profitable situation because I think it'll set us in a good going forward position. Whoever succeeds him, I think, will be set up well, and I think the process is kind of starting now going forward. I think we're on the right track. If any of this makes any sense, I just it's hard for me. It's hard for me to think about today because if this decision to bring him in was before the window or during the window and he got to bring his guys in, we would be having a different conversation because I don't know enough about Graham Potter to know what he's going to do with Chelsea, how we're going to look with him and the squad that we have today. Like, we don't have to talk about this, but like, I have no idea where Hakim Ziyech fits in. I'm hoping it's not in the squad given his recent form, but like, I don't know how he fits in. I don't know how that defensive mid that we were talking about pre-pod Collins, that Zakaria or whatever, I don't know if he fits in. Maybe he does. Maybe we switch up how our midfield plays and it's not the pivot that we've been used to for the past couple seasons. Maybe it's completely different. I mean, we didn't always line up the way we did. It took someone to change things with the personnel that we had, and that's now how we look, right? And so my roundabout way of getting here is, I think you'll look back on Graham Potter and say he was relatively successful. I don't think he's going to be our most winningest manager, but I think we're in a completely different state than we have been. New ownership, a brand new full staff. We're going to have a new director of football. It's a very new, front office for Chelsea, but all the same personnel on the pitch. So, well, I guess not all the same, right? We brought in a couple in this window, but same Chelsea, different face and everything like that. So all of those pillars I think are good to build off of. And I think the team is going to morph over time. And I think we'll push into be more successful, but I think it might take some time. Man, that was ranty. I'm sorry.
No, that's the kind of answer I'm looking for here. That sums up, I think, what a lot of Chelsea fans are feeling right now. Speaking of that, Matt, how are you feeling right now?
In the Todd father, we trust. That's where I'm at. Like, I think I might have taken like a picture of it. I don't know if I sent it to you guys, but basically like Todd Bowley and somebody like kicking somebody else like right in the chest, and the person getting kicked in the chest was like 150 years of English football tradition. Yeah. Like, I think it's definitely accurate. Like, he's trying to do things different. He didn't want a manager that wouldn't necessarily play ball with him. I get it. Yeah. Tuchel had a track record. Were we fans of him? Absolutely. But at the same time, if he didn't want to play ball, that it kind of is what it is. If Graham Potter wants to play ball, sure. I think it's worth it. And the thing to note is that he signed a 5-year deal. And Collins, you brought that up. That is like unprecedented for a manager, especially at Chelsea. you're maybe looking at a 2-year max. Like, obviously, this is somebody that Boley trusts can do the job that he wants. He can revitalize it and make things work the way that he wants them to work. I think now, by signing that 5-year deal, you give Potter a runway to do what he needs to do, and something that we've all been kind of calling for a lot of our managers.
And I'll take the old man position here, in that if it was up to me, I would still follow the philosophy that we've been following, where, I'm not getting attached to any manager. If you can't perform, doesn't matter the amount of time you've been there, we'll find somebody who can. But I'm always somebody who's been very captivated by the off the pitch stuff with Chelsea. I mean, God, I wrote one of my senior theses on Roman Abramovich for my Russian history degree. So it's just the inner workings of the club have always fascinated me, the business aspect of it. And so I'm fascinated by all of this, by the timing of the firing of Tuchel and the apparent contact and tampering with Graham Potter, the weeks leading up to the hiring, the emphasis, the amount of money spent. I believe it was almost 75-80 million pounds on youth this summer. I'm intrigued to see how this turns out. I like that Boley wants somebody who's going to collaborate. I like that there's rumors that we're going to have 3 big name, essentially directors of football, all in the same room together. I like that they're going to be collaborating with Graham Potter. They're going to be collaborating with Todd Boley. Todd Boley is going to splash his motherfucking money on all of this. I'm intrigued. So I will give Graham Potter, I'll give him a runway just to see how this plays out. So I'm not worried about this season. Maybe not even worried about next season. I'm not saying I won't be mad when we don't win a trophy, but I'm willing to, if Todd has a long-term plan, if he's got a 5-year plan, and Potter is a part of that, let it ride.
I'm gonna record this locally and keep it because inevitably it's gonna be February and we're gonna be in 8th and you're gonna be pissed off and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is he doing? And he's not doing what he said. You're gonna be mad and you're gonna be calling for his head. And that's what part of the runway is you have to, for lack of a better phrase, I'm sorry for using this, for lack of a better phrase, you have to hit rock bottom before you can go up. Like, you have to sink a little bit to then propel forward. Like, it's going to take time. It's going to be not fun. It's going to be rebuildy. You can't do it any other way. And they've cleaned house on the managerial side of things. They might have to clean some house in the team as well, and the team might look completely different in 2 seasons. It might fully turn over. So I hope you mean runway, which means I trust this guy and we might go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah, and like I said, I am absolutely of 2 mindsets right now, and I'm going to have a crazy amount of inner struggle going on as the season goes on and we head towards 7th, 8th, 9th place and knocked out in the group stages in the Champions League. It's going to be a rough season for me mentally. And Parker, I know you questioned my trust the process take in our group chat this week, but I'm willing to try. I'll put it that way.
I just think all that needs to happen is we'll have a trust the process segment sponsored by insert whiskey or booze here, and we'll just reference Bob Kraft or Central Standard or whomever to remind you that this is internal struggle. I don't like this feeling. This feels weird, but you're trusting the process.
We can fly the L every time we post an L on the weekend. How about that? Shout out to Central Standard.
This loss brought to you by Ricketts Tears.
Oh.
All right. Well, that just about takes us to the hour mark here, boys. Matt, any closing thoughts from you?
Good to see you, boys. Happy to be throwing a few back, talking Chelsea. So not much from me.
Parker?
I will close it how I closed the match on Tuesday to you boys, which was Rome wasn't built in a day, and good days are ahead of us. There's going to be some bumpy road, but good days are ahead of us, and I still go back to the period of managerial shift, and there was a point in that where I didn't know if Chelsea was going to exist as a club. The fact that I'm here in this seat chatting Chelsea, we have a season ahead of us, a long season ahead of us at that, right? Might not be as long as last year, but a long season ahead of us. So life's good.
All right, perfect. Well, before we cheers to that, let me pay the bills here. If you've enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch, please give us a follow there. Again, we'll be here. I know today's a Saturday, but we'll be there most Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. If you're busy on Sunday evenings, or if you like to listen to the podcast version, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. All we ask is that if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple, that you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Again, it helps us spread our stuff. You can always follow us on social media. The podcast can be followed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search at FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy, at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour, and you can follow Matt at Matus Lee. If you have any questions or comments you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read what you got. So either shoot us a DM or come join us live on Twitch, jump in the chat. So that's all I've got, boys. Let's toast to good friends, good beers, and good days ahead.
Good.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.